Hey. So today, hopefully everyone can see the stream coming through what I'm trying to set up today. Let's see. I want to see if people are able to join. And here we go. So I'm slowly starting to see Ailes, Cronus, Sebastian, Mark Mansour, Zane, Audi, Matt, Sagboy, Maxim, Nate, Nick, Bad Voice. Okay. How about now? I think maybe it's a little bit better. Let me know if there's still an echo. There's a little bit of a delay with the stream, and also okay, so what I'm trying to do today is to just do a quick Q&A. So we have Bright, Ogus, Ivan. Good to see Ivan. A lot of these names I recognize from the course, the podcast course, which is available down below in the link, hopefully. If not, then I'll have to change this somehow. Nope, it is not. So yeah, brand new course on how to build an audio playing application, available on the website letsbuildthatApp.com if you want to check that out. And I want to do a very quick Q&A and also some setup changes with my equipment. So I'm really getting used to like OBS and the broadcasting capabilities and what it can do, and hopefully doing this will allow me to record videos a little bit better too, because one of the biggest problems with making YouTube videos is that when I'm trying to have multiple camera setups at the same time, it becomes a little difficult to edit all the videos together, and I'm trying to figure out how to improve the workflow. So this is actually I don't know. This is a webcam, and I want you guys to guess what model this webcam is. And I think I'm breaking out a little bit. There's a lot of red dots on my face because this camera catches the reds for some reason at a brighter color spectrum. So that's the webcam. You guys can take a guess as to what kind of webcam it is. It's one of the most popular ones that people have on the internet. And then the last setup that I have is something that I wanted to just quickly compare. So hopefully I can get this up. It doesn't look like that's really wanting to do anything. Okay. So in the middle is my phone, so you guys can kind of see through the left screen what's going on. So I'm just doing a like comparison of everything. And well, that's blocking my face. So this is the camera on my iPhone 10, and you can kind of tell like there's a lot of differences between the coloring and just the angle. And so yeah, that's what my little setup looks like over there. So the camera on the right side is the C920 from Logitech. The one in the middle is my iPhone 10. Obviously you guys can see the little controls at the bottom. And we have the actual digital camera on the left side, which is the more expensive one. That's over $1,000. While this phone over here is this guy. So this phone is also $1,000 too. So yeah, it's kind of nice to see like the color differences, right? So the Logitech camera on the right side, that one's definitely a lot brighter and maybe hides. It does a better job at hiding certain imperfections on your face. You know, this isn't a makeup tutorial channel, so I don't really care so much about that stuff. It's more about the content, right? That's what we all want to believe. And yeah, okay, maybe I think I'm done with playing with the videos. So yeah, let's just stay with one, and maybe I'll just use this angle here. Okay, so Any questions? Let me know what you guys are thinking. So I'm going to try to go through the questions relatively quickly today. I'm going to head over to the gym to get some exercise. That's one thing I do recommend that you guys do. Don't try to program too much and try to take a day off every now and then. I've been producing like videos day after day. I think 2 videos a day lately. So it's gotten a little bit too much, but I think it's something that you just have to get used to as a YouTuber and as a content creator. Okay, so we have a question on MVVM. Seems like a good topic. So can you give some tips on effectively reading documentation? I think documentation is just something that you have to look at constantly. So I read the Apple Docs a lot, and I read whatever I'm trying to work on, Facebook Docs, Firebase Docs. I'm always looking at that stuff. So the thing that you have to realize is that the docs is just very, very dry sometimes, and they don't provide you with a lot of examples. And you have to read the docs, and then you have to experiment with the code. That's how you can kind of combine the two together to see what can work. So that's my one tip. How difficult is it to teach yourself programming? How difficult is it to teach yourself how to cook? That's the exact same skill, I would say. Requires a lot of like the same type of things, like researching, experimenting, seeing what works and seeing what doesn't. Do you have a Slack for a community here? No, I do not have a Slack. Your voice sounds beautiful. Thank you. If anybody wants to know what kind of microphone I'm using, it's a Rode NT. I don't want to move my mic too much because it starts to distort. So this guy is a Rode microphone, and I think it captures pretty good audio. Might be a little too loud right now. I think I'm in the red, but I have a boom pole that allows me to mount it on this thing, this little apparatus that just allows me to adjust the positioning of the microphone. What resources can I use to teach myself programming? Well, the internet is a pretty good start. Have you created a pod file? Yes, I have. Greens from Costa Rica, India. So Nate Nick says that he just finished the Instagram course. Should I buy the podcast course? I think the podcast course does a really good job at showing you how to do different things. And so the thing about the website and this channel is that I want to show the whole spectrum of iOS development, right? And you look at the App Store, you get a ton of different types of applications. So on the channel, I've done the chatting app, which is a big sector of iOS apps. And then the Instagram app is more of a social application where you can follow users, use the camera a little bit, upload pictures. And then the podcast course is more like, okay, how do I integrate a external API such as iTunes, search for podcasts or search for pretty much anything, and then use that to gain or to acquire an audio stream so that you can play a podcast using AV-Kit and AV Player on the iPhone. So that's another big portion of iOS applications. And that's kind of why I decided to create a podcast course. And in addition to just playing audio files, there's a lot of dragging and dropping, saving podcasts, saving files, how to use CocoaPods, image caching, Alamo Fire, downloading files asynchronously when the application is backgrounded. There's just so many different things to talk about that I think the podcast course is a good way to kind of get into real world application development. That's kind of what I wanted to say. Looks great, the screen swap. Do you use RxSwift? I do not, but I do recommend that you research what RxSwift is all about. RxSwift is nothing difficult. Yeah. How much should I charge for an iOS app? Well, whatever you can get away with, you should charge that. I want to build an iOS video editing app. Where should I start or what to search? Well, you can... well, first you need to know how to capture video. I go through a very small example in the Instagram app or the Instagram Firebase course. If you want to check out the camera portion of that, make sure to look at that course. And then the rest of it, you just have to research AVKit a lot, how to export the video into a smaller format, how to go through a video and kind of cut it up. That's another big thing. The first one is better. I do agree. So that's the first one. Second one looks like that. It's a different like angle, I guess. And you see different things. I don't know. It's wider, definitely. I think it makes me look skinnier. Okay. Yeah. Hello from a new subscriber. Love your channel. Well, thank you. Wow, where are we? Whoa, a lot of questions. Too much, Brian. 3 at a time. Yeah. I do agree. It is a little bit too much. Let's just stick with one. How long did it take you to finish publish your first iPhone app? I don't know, probably like 3 weeks. Yeah, probably like 3 weeks. But I was already working professionally at the time, and once you get out of school and you start developing software as a full-time job, your mindset, mentality, it changes. You can do things a lot faster. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, don't really work with that. Benefit from documentation? Well, just read and experiment is my first tip. Congrats with the new equipment. Yeah. Are you ever going to do a video chat app? I don't know. I don't really think I have the necessary skills yet to do that. Like something like Snapchat, maybe. Yeah. There are a lot of things that I do want to do. It's just the matter of time and putting in the research and effort to record videos. Not sure if a lot of you guys understand, but recording videos is not an easy thing to do, especially like trying to make it like quick and to the point and not too much filler information. And obviously the people that enjoy the channel probably appreciate how short and concise the videos are right now. I don't really like the channels that seem to have all of this like filler gap stuff. Like, oh, let me talk about my life for some reason. Not really into that kind of thing. But maybe that would make the videos more interesting. You say you will produce a Node.js course. Are you still planning on doing that? Do I want to produce the Node.js course? Yeah, a while back I was talking about the Node.js stuff. Yeah, I actually do want to do it still. But seeing as how I'm kind of busy with the podcast course right now, I am still going to plan on releasing something. It's just a matter of when I can do it. Kernel Panic. I don't really experience that a lot. Slack community here. I don't really have one. But what music do I listen to? Right now, I listen to like a lot of like Chinese music on YouTube. Yeah. So when I'm programming, the type of music that I like to not really exactly listen to is one, stuff that I don't really understand too much. Like the reason why I like to listen to like Chinese music is because like while I do understand it, it is something that I can like drone out very easily. And I also like listening to like EDM music and, you know, just fast beats because I can drown out my own thoughts in my head and kind of get in the zone of programming. That's what I like to do. How do I start my day? I have a quick cup of coffee that I normally just pour in. It's instant mixed coffee, which is not that great, but it's what I have to start my day. New subscribers since a week ago. Well, cool. Published my first app with the help of your YouTube videos. Thanks for all the great content and work you put into your tutorial videos. Yeah, I appreciate it. So lately I haven't really been putting up too many videos on the channel, again, because I'm busy producing a course on the website. And so once I'm done with that, I'll come back to putting up more content on the YouTube channel. Easy way to sync Firebase to MySQL data for best user experience app on the website. That's a hard one. So I have a core data course that you can take to understand core data better. But when it comes to the MySQL data on a website, it becomes really tricky because you have your Firebase data storage and then you have your MySQL data storage. And when you try to mix those two together, it's not pretty, I'll tell you that. How to learn design pattern? Well, experiment with it and you should be fine. What do you think about using singletons? I think singletons are okay. They're fine. I use them a lot in my course. The bad thing about singletons is that they're hard to test, and that's just something that you have to deal with. Lazy instantiation? Well, you can just Google that and Google will tell you everything. If we build an interface with Xcode's storyboard and UI's class, does it differ in terms of performance? Nope. What's up? What kind of software do you use to record videos and software you use cutting and finishing? So I use Adobe Premiere. I know a lot of people aren't interested in video editing software, but that's kind of what I use. Yeah, so I use this software called Monosnap, which allows me to record my screen. And lately I've just been capturing my camera directly onto my screen so I can just record that. It really cuts down on the amount of steps to cut your video together. And yeah, so the normal approach to making a YouTube video is to record everything onto the SD card of the camera, take out the SD card, plug in your computer, transfer all those files, and then transfer that into Premiere, make sure everything's like synced up. And that process is, while not all that time consuming, if you have to do this every time you want to record a video, it starts to become a little bit too much. And the thing about YouTube is that I know a lot of people are kind of curious about YouTube because you know it's a big platform, you can make a lot of money out of it. And the thing about YouTube is that the more videos you put out, the higher engagement you'll have on your channel. So the best thing to do is to find the quickest way you can pump out a video and then just go with that and just continually improve your process of getting a video out. And let's see, please make a video, a hardware connection. So I don't know much about Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Maybe you can make a video and share it with the rest of us. Yeah, so the question is, would you know how to secure Google Firebase if you wanted to store some information that's unique to one single user, such as a credit card? Well, so Firebase has these security privileges that you can enable, and then you can enable read, write, and I guess delete, which is I guess write. And you can enable this based on the user. So just say like, okay, this node right here, only the user can read it and write to that node. And that's how you would secure the information. I mean, it's, yeah. So sometimes I get these like really obvious questions, like how do you secure information? I think Google's website on Firebase, the first thing they tell you to do is like use the security privileges. So like, I don't want to say these questions that are like really obvious, but then the Firebase website tells you to do it. Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, I don't know what to say about it. Which database language has a nicer view to the future, SQL or Node.js? Well, David, Node.js is not a SQL database language. Solve a lot of Git merging issues when swapped to code over storyboards. Thank you so much, Brian, for making it so easy to learn. You're the best. Yeah, storyboards, there's a lot of coding conflicts because the huge problem with storyboard is that you do everything inside of this file, this one single file, and then when you try to separate it out, it becomes difficult. So if you've been doing programming a lot, you'll eventually realize that the more you separate everything out into its own little thing, the better it is to kind of add new features, maintain your code, make code revisioning easier and editing it easier, and overall making the whole team development experience just much more enjoyable. So storyboards, while it's a good tool for beginners to get into, as you get more and more advanced into development, you realize that you want to move away from that as quickly as you can. And so that's kind of why I currently use like zip files and nib files as the kind of like the visual part of the application. And inside of that podcast course, that's why I'm using zip files instead. It's kind of a mix between the two approaches, and I like it a lot because it's just a view component and you don't have too much logic that goes inside of it. The more you can reduce the logic through a visual medium, the better it is for your application. Is it bad to create an online CV with Bootstrap? I don't know. I don't have an opinion of that. Can you make more videos about iOS and Android animation? Yeah, maybe. What do you mean by charging whatever you could get away with? I don't know. That seems like a pretty straightforward answer to me. Like, there's nothing too confusing about charging whatever you can get away with, right? Respect for the best iOS teacher ever. How do you work with size classes in code when developing an app that supports both iPhone and iPad? Well, the thing about iPhone and iPad is the major differences come in like font sizing and padding, and that's pretty much it. Font sizes and padding. And so if you check for your size classes in your view controller and modify the padding based on your device, user device idiom, I think they call it, then you just change the padding values according to that. If you try to do this in the storyboard, you have to click these little plus buttons on the side, and after a while you're like, okay, there's too much that I can't control. There's going to be too much clicking, and yeah, the more you can reduce clicking, overall you're going to enjoy making iOS apps more. When trying to opt for a cross-platform framework, React Native, Xamarin, or Flutter, I don't know. So personally, I've never really used Xamarin. I really like the C# programming language. I've used React.js for my website, so React Native seems like the logical thing for me, even though I've used React Native a couple of times to build out some tutorial videos. Not the most straightforward thing to learn, and it feels like a totally different type of mindset when you're developing in React Native versus Native Swift. So I can't exactly recommend it for people that don't understand iOS programming at all. And Flutter, I believe, is something that is developed by Google, and you have to write in the Dart language. So I'm not sure. I feel like there's going to be so many other options pretty soon that it's hard to pick one, for me at least. Hello, Bruce. Nice to see you again. I can't read Spanish. I think that's what it is. Or is that French? That doesn't look like Spanish to me. How do you do making a tutorial channel on YouTube so far? It's been all right. It's been all right. As long as you don't depend on YouTube financially, you'll be fine. What headphones do you use while you're plugged in? So, do I have my headset? I don't often have my headphones plugged in, so I have a Sony headset, and I don't use it very much. The reason why I don't use a headset is because I have a really large head. This huge head makes it hard to wear something over it. And then I find that if I wear put on a headphone for too long, I start to get like a minor headache. So I don't like experiencing that. What is your best advice for someone new to programming? Well, just program as much as you can. I finished learning Swift tutorial by Apple and stuck what to do next. Follow the courses, follow the videos on this channel, obviously. I published a app, IceDrift. There's a Facebook post in the Facebook group, which is down below. Put a post up and I'll try to get to it. What are your thoughts on progressive web apps? I don't really work for Google, so I can't really say much about that technology. It's pretty new and it looks promising. The thing about apps is that while it's fun to make, not a lot of apps, I'm going to say like 95% of apps are not going to see more than maybe 100 users. And yeah, like 99% of apps will never see more than 1,000 users. So if you're developing an app just to have a lot of people use it, the chances of that happening is very unlikely. But the main thing about building apps is that there's a lot of companies that need mobile app developers. So most apps are still built natively. So it's a really good industry to be in. Express my gratitude. Have decided to change my profession from system admin to iOS developer. I think in 1 or 2 years, I will become a developer. Your media lessons help me a lot. Cool. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I'd appreciate everyone that watches. So it's great. What programming language do you know? I think I know about 6 or 7, and it doesn't really matter. They're all the same. It's just doing for loops and keeping your variables and writing functions. That's pretty much what all programming languages are doing. You are the reason why I dropped using storyboards and began using programmatic layouts. I love it. Great tutorials. Cool. How to avoid massive view controllers? Well, there's like a couple of lessons on the podcast course and also the Instagram course about reducing code in your controllers overall. So it's all about refactoring and making sure that your network code doesn't belong in your controller. View code is minimized to either a separate file or maybe use a zib. Yeah, most apps use a table view controller anyways, so your views go inside of a cell. Just make sure your view controllers don't have too much code. That's pretty much it. You can always put like functionality somewhere else. When will you do something on server-side Swift? I don't think I will ever do server-side Swift. I'm not a huge fan of Xcode, so the problem with developing server-side Swift is that you have to type inside of the Xcode editor, and the Xcode editor is great for iOS development because it hooks up directly into the iOS simulator. But when you start to write server-side code in Xcode, you start to find that it's really slow. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe that's just my experience. But yeah. So the problem with server-side Swift for me is that most of the time when you're writing server code, you have to have a terminal opened up. So the terminal is responsible for launching your server locally, and you want to see what the terminal is doing. And I feel like Xcode server-side Swift, well, I guess it probably does that. Yeah, I don't know. Last time I did server-side, I just found myself hating it on using Swift. So Jack Stevens says, hey Brian, love your courses. I had 2 questions. What are your thoughts on transitioning from Firebase real-time database to Cloud's Firestore? So you don't have to transition to Firestore if you don't want to. They kind of serve 2 different purposes. And I would say, if you don't want to transition to Firestore, just go ahead and keep using the real-time database. What's the best way to load and cache a set of images from Firebase storage upon app launch so that those images can be immediately accessed without lag across the application? I would say just you go ahead and use like a third-party pod. So I use SD Web Image. There's also Alamo Fire Image, and I think that's the best you can do. Yeah. Please, we want the table view generics tutorial. I will put that out next week. That's going to be my next video. I've been going through a couple of different ways to teach that lesson, and it's all kind of confusing. The idea of generics is pretty advanced, I would say, and it's a kind of abstract topic. So once I figure out a much easier way of teaching it, I'll show everyone how it's done. Being a private contractor and permanent staff, which will you prefer? I prefer neither of these. I don't like being a private contractor, and I don't want to be a permanent staff either. I like being able to do what I'm doing like right now. So being my own boss is what I'm talking about. And I actually don't like creating apps for other people. I don't like that really all that much. Okay, how long have you done client work, freelance jobs? Is it hard to do all of these years? I don't know. I've been programming for like more than 10 years, so after a while, it becomes like this cycle of Googling, learning the editor, writing the code, running it, and then you're pretty much done. So the more you do it, the easier it gets. Can you recommend an iOS book? I don't read books very much, so I can't really recommend anything. I obviously just Google, research everything that I know, and going through a book, while it should be really helpful to actually have some books, I just don't have any, so I can't recommend it. When you are full on coding, how often do you take breaks to maximize the productivity? Any tips on work-break balance? I can typically program for like 4 hours straight. That's about my limit. And I pretty much take breaks when I complete a certain feature, a feature set. So let's say I'm trying to load like some images in a collection view, and I need to write out the server code, the iOS client, and then the multiple classes that I need on the iOS side to get it all done. So what I do is I'll write the server side, then I'll write the actual iOS client, and then once I have that done, which takes like 2 to 3 hours, then I'll refactor all the code, make sure it's like nice and neat, so that when I come back to it, I can still look at the code. And that takes about 3 to 4 hours in total, and then bam, I take a lunch break. And then after a lunch break, let's say it's like 1:30 or 1:30 after my lunch break, I can just keep on coding for the rest of the day. And I have to say that if you don't like coding for more than like 3 to 4 hours at a time, then you should work towards being able to do that, making that more tolerable and making your mindset more accustomed to that. Otherwise, it's very difficult to stay a programmer for many years. Like what you'll find is there are people that just don't like programming for that long in a day, and those programmers usually end up doing something else. Like I could literally sit down on a computer and program for like 8 hours straight, and I don't really mind it at all. And most people in the software industry, they can just sit here, stare at the computer for 8 hours, and code, research, do all this testing, And most software developers love doing that. Like, it's literally something that they love doing. Stare at a computer, code, and just have fun with that. We are forced to program in the terminal. I have to program C in the terminal for operating systems class, and it is killing me. Yeah, there have been times where we were forced to use the terminal, and in the beginning, when you're not used to doing something outside of the editor, like you're probably using like Eclipse or Visual Studio as your editor or something like that, right? You got to get outside of your comfort zone, because when you get into the real world, most people have to learn terminal. They have to learn bash scripting to a certain extent, and that's all done using like just a flat file. There's no real easy bash editing editor. So that's kind of, you just have to get used to it. Get out of the mindset of, oh, this is different, so I can't do it. If you always have that mindset of, well, I'm not used to doing this, it's hard, then you will always take a really long time to get to the actual point of doing the thing that you're doing. How to start making a project and how to get an idea about to start making a project. I mean, I don't know, I can't help you with that. How long have you been a developer for? More than 10 years. What's your password? I have a tech hub in Ghana. I'm happy to reception, please. Everything financial. Please, everything financial and your welfare will be taken care of. Please, can I get your private email? Very happy to host you for a session. So I'm not exactly looking to travel anywhere this year. I'll probably be teaching in Shanghai again in the summer for maybe 2 weeks, and that's about it. And then I'll take some vacations to travel around. But for the most part, really concentrated on just staying put here and producing videos. Will there be a good growth for Apple developers as Android is dominating the mobile market? I can't say that Android dominating is the right thing or an accurate statement. It's definitely having more market share these days. And there are still going to be a lot of iOS users, iPhone users, that spend more money on iOS apps and things related to an iPhone. So there's more dollars that go into the spending aspect of mobile apps for iOS. And most people that use an Android phone probably don't have the money to buy things. So you gotta take that into account. Is it okay to have yellow warnings in Xcode? I do try to fix everything that is a warning. I treat warnings very, very seriously. And at any time that I have a warning, I'll Google search how to fix it. Yeah. Start learning Python. Okay, it's 10:40 over here, and we are quickly approaching the 40-minute mark. Okay, I think I will. How do I ban a person? Hide user. Put user in timeout. Yeah, let's do that. Put user in timeout. What does that do? Okay, that removes that. What advice would you give to someone else starting to struggle with the coding part? Let's see. What advice would you give someone that seems to struggle with the coding part? So the thing about programming is that it's always going to be a struggle. For some reason, I guess in 2018, people think that it's supposed to be easy to do things. It's not. You code and then you run into problems and then you get over it after how long it takes, maybe a day, and then you learn from that struggle. Nothing is meant to be easy in life. You have to expect it to be difficult. Have you thought about living in another country while doing YouTube? I have, but it doesn't make any sense. It's not that I don't like other places. I don't really care for living in another country. And it's not that the United States is all that great. It's just not a priority or anything I really consider. Okay. Huh. There's a good one. What advice would you give to your younger self if you could? There are a lot of things that I would maybe probably do differently. But what advice would I give myself if I could? I think in the past I have been a little bit not as hardworking. Maybe I could have pushed myself harder, even though I think I tried to do the most that I can in the last 10 years. Yeah, what advice would I give my younger self? I don't know. It's hard to say that because I haven't really lived my life with too many regrets. I think in terms of my career, you can only do so much with your career, and I've tried to do the best that I could and take on the challenges that I have been kind of faced with. I don't know. That's a hard one. It's a hard one because I've never really been in a place where I've like regretted my decision too much. So what was the first language you learned? I think probably like ActionScript. Can you provide me with any means to, if you go onto the website and then you ask me a question, I will make sure to try to answer it. So there's a questions tab on my website. Just go there and you'll be able to find me. Can you provide me with any means to privately read? Okay, sometimes Xcode we have purple exclamation point, which is threat warning. How do you fix it? Well, you want to use the dispatch queue main async code, and you just get onto the main thread. You don't want to be modifying your UI on a background thread. That's why that purple warning comes up. How easily would it be to learn iOS with programming from a decent Android programmer? I think pretty easy. If you understand how mobile applications are built, the concepts are like virtually the same thing. Like you have some kind of list and you scroll through a list, you render the views inside of the list, and that's like 90% of the applications. How much money do you earn beyond which money does not buy happiness? What's never? I don't know. I'm trying to set up a channel as yours. What's the best software and hardware I can use? It should not be expensive. If you want really bad quality, then yeah, your equipment will not be expensive. I don't know what expensive is because that's relative to how much money you have, obviously. I would say that the setup that you can, like if I were to rebuild this entire channel from scratch and just buy the cheapest things that I can have access to, then it would probably like $500. I would buy a really, really cheap camera. So let me show you my camera over here. So this is a really, really cheap camera that I have. You can buy this for, I don't know, $300 now. And then you can just get a pretty cheap lens on it. So this is a really, really big camera. The one I'm using is actually really small and much more expensive. So you get this combo, I think, for $400 right now, maybe $300. And then you get a good microphone, and that's about $500. And you should be off on your merry way. I do plan on making more videos about recording equipment because I feel like some people do a really bad job at getting audio in and also making sure that their visual, like the camera quality is good. Most people just suck at it, so I want to put some videos out on how to do it. Any news about Node.js course? I haven't really had the time to push out Node.js course. Is math important to CS? Probably. Calculus using CS? No. What podcasts do you listen to? By the way, thanks for answering the question about work balance. The podcasts I listen to comedy podcasts. So there's a show called Jake and Amir on YouTube, and they have a podcast called If I Were You. I listen to that a lot, and then I think I listen to some NPR podcasts too. Brian, please hire somebody who will be doing your video processing so that you can produce more stuff. Because to be honest, things are getting pretty slow. Seems that you can't handle it alone anymore. So I produce about 2 videos a day, which I think is a lot. And yeah, the reason why it's slow is because I just have things on the website, which is the premium stuff. And so I've been thinking about hiring a video editor, but the question is, can that person actually do the video editing for me? Probably. The most important thing about editing these videos is that there's a lot of pause breaks in between that you can't see because I edit the pause breaks out. So you have to record in a way so that you can say, okay, this is a cut right here. Here's the other cut. The editor needs to merge those cuts together. And yeah, I don't know. Most of the time when I'm doing the edits, I actually listen to what I'm saying so that I make sure it makes sense. And sometimes I'll actually re-record things so that I can explain things better. But yeah, you're right. Hiring someone could help a lot. Yeah. So what's better to do between making videos on YouTube, paid courses or client work? So paid courses or client work. I don't know. I really hate doing client work, so that's why I do paid courses instead. Overall, I think paid courses are, in the long run, actually, they probably generate more revenue in the very, very long run. So I'm talking about like a year or 2. And it provides me with a lot more flexibility in terms of what I want to do. But I do miss doing client work. Even though I don't like doing client work, I don't like the aspect of communicating with people that are not, that don't have an engineering background. So that's what I hate about doing client work. And most people that contact me about contracting, they're not technically, I guess they're not programmers themselves. So it's hard to convey how difficult things can be when you're developing an app. Okay, so I think video processing now looks like a business, and a business needs more people to get involved to get success. You'll be surprised how much you can get away with just by yourself. And yeah, things are actually pretty good here. Things on the YouTube channel are like, they're doing pretty good just by myself. The things that I do need is like a social media person, because that stuff gets a little bit too much for me. And yeah, I do need to hire maybe a couple of people, but right now things are okay. Yeah, it will take a lot of time to hire someone else and then creating a workflow between you and this other person. That's kind of why I've held off on hiring someone else. I think it's overall going to be a good idea to be more productive, but right now I can't see myself developing some kind of relationship with someone else where we can maximize productivity. I still have to think about that. And yeah, it's always on my mind to hire more people or to hire someone else. Seems difficult to understand all these concepts. Detailed oriented facts for programming. What's your personal process for deeply learning ideas in general? There's really no secret to any of this. You just have to spend time in programming. So you want to just make sure that you actually type out the code yourself. So that's kind of why I emphasize coding, because when you physically type out the code sort of becomes a part of you. If you're just using the storyboard, you don't really understand what's going on. So that's why a lot of people on this channel have been learning so much. It's because they actually do the work physically. Yeah. How much money do you earn on average on a monthly basis? Things are good, so I don't really think about money too much. I worked at a startup company, and I still have a lot of money in terms of savings. I don't spend any money at all, and I've reduced the because I worked at startups. I understand the server costs and things to get up and running. So I've minimized the costs for everything. In terms of like monthly server costs, it's about like $100 a month. So all this stuff that you guys use, like the JSON files, the APIs, the website, it's all about $100 max to support all that stuff for this entire website. And you work in startups a lot. You understand how costs can really eat into your profits and revenue. And you just try to minimize that as much as possible. But that's more of the business side of how to operate a website, really. I've never worked at a big tech company. I interviewed for Google once, and I had a really bad experience with the interviewer. So the interviewer doesn't really care about you. It's kind of like a number. They want to meet their 5 interviews a day, and they just get through it. And so, yeah, they don't really care too much about who you are. And yeah, I mean, I didn't do all that great on the interview, but I didn't really want to work for someone like that anyways. Like, I don't have this dream about working for a big tech company anymore. I think I used to have it when I first graduated, but then that quickly goes away. College worth it for CS? Maybe, probably. If I were to do it again, I probably, like, everything that I know now, let's say I forgot all of my programming knowledge right now, right? The knowledge that I have about how to learn things, if I still had that, then no, I would not do CS. But that took me like 10 years or maybe like 5 years in my mid-20s before I realized that I can just learn everything on my own. So if you can reach that before you go to college, then yeah, you probably don't need a degree. But it takes a while. Okay. All right. So I'm going to head out because I need to be somewhere in about 40 minutes. And I think I'm probably going to be a little late already. So thank you everyone for joining the live stream today. Just kind of a little bit of an experiment on how things are going to work. And yeah, it's been fun. So thank you again for everyone, and I'll see you next time. Probably not next week, but next time. So bye bye guys.